as far as the business of boxing.
The best thing is a fighter needs to take almost everything.
You paid all that money and had the biggest stage in boxing on Netflix, and that is really the best they could do?
He knew that he could not beat Bud Crawford, which is why they basically paid him $100 million.
Canelo later reflected on his performance against Crawford during an appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast, admitting that he didn't push himself to his usual limits in that fight. He explained that he intentionally fought at a slower pace, remained more stationary than usual, and didn't fully unleash his offense. Decisions he suggested were partly influenced by financial and business factors surrounding the matchup.
But how does that work? Because it's not pay-per-view. Do they still...
Netflix putting up the money.
So they don't get no back end then?
No, there is no back end. There's ticket sales.
Yeah, because pay-per-view, the back end is the most.
There's no pay-per-view.
I guess if you give me $50 million up front, I don't really care about a back end.
Canelo's remarks seemed to validate what many in the boxing community had suspected right after the fight. Observers, including both fans and analysts, felt that his performance appeared unusually subdued. His trademark jab was rarely used, combinations were absent, and the relentless pressure he's known for never materialized. Instead, Canelo relied mostly on single punches, often remained stationary, and showed little urgency as the rounds progressed. The statistics backed this up, revealing some of the lowest punch outputs of his career. Initially, many attributed the lackluster showing to age or a natural decline. But his later comments cast the fight in a completely different light.
He don't have the punching power, but he has the skills that's necessary.
Crawford.
Yeah.
So you were very impressed with his performance? Would you say?
Well, yeah. The point of the matter is, I knew if it came down to if somebody got knocked out, I thought Crawford would probably get knocked out.
Yeah.
But I know about boxing.
Oscar De La Hoya was among the earliest voices to question Canelo's performance. Just hours after the fight, he took to social media expressing his surprise, noting that Canelo looked far slower and less explosive than usual. De La Hoya, who had promoted Canelo for many years, said the version of Canelo he saw in the ring that night was almost unrecognizable compared to the sharp, intense fighter he had witnessed in training camps. Based on his experience, De La Hoya didn't think age alone could explain such a drastic drop-off, and he openly wondered whether something else was at play.
When he got hit by Crawford and he took that deep breath, he's frustrated. Don't get me wrong. Canelo facing the right opponent that's going to stay in front of him, that's going to fight, that's going to make it a brawl, Canelo knocks him out. So I'm not saying Canelo's shot or done. No, it's far from.
Veteran boxer Gabe Rosado also shared his thoughts on Canelo's performance, describing it as unusually flat and lacking the sharpness fans are used to. He observed that Canelo fought with a static stance, threw single punches, and didn't utilize his jab or combinations effectively. Rosado remarked that it resembled the kind of display expected from an aging fighter well past his peak, not from an active champion still holding titles. His perspective echoed Canelo's own later comments. Rosado also noted that in past matchups, like those against Golovkin, Canelo was far more dynamic, doubling up on his jab, countering sharply and applying steady pressure. None of that was evident in the fight with Crawford.
Watching Bud catch those shots off his glove,
he looked amazing.
So amazing.
Yeah, he looked good.
Yeah, he'd go to a body and he'd catch that and come up with an uppercut. Just all those things that seem.
He looked great.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody do that to ever.
No one has. Yeah, he's the best.
Canelo. Ever.
Yeah, he's the best.
And I think he would do that to Canelo on his best day. And Canelo said it. He goes, "I couldn't figure him out."
No.
Which is.
Claressa Shields offered her own perspective, suggesting that Canelo's physical decline was becoming apparent. She felt his movement had slowed drastically. His combinations lacked their usual sharpness, and his legs didn't seem to have the same strength. Interpreting this as a natural sign of a long and demanding career nearing its final stages. Meanwhile, David Benavidez, one of Canelo's most outspoken critics, maintained his long-held view that Canelo has strategically avoided certain high-risk opponents. Leading up to the Crawford fight, Benavidez accused him of selecting matchups that favored his strengths while steering clear of those that could truly challenge him. After the bout, he reiterated that Canelo appeared uninterested in taking dangerous fights.
Any advice for them for his boxing business?
Because the fighters always get the less money, and some of the fighters they need to take the money, the guarantee money, right? Because they don't make a lot of money in the fights, right? But they are as a fight.
According to David Benavidez and others in the boxing world, Canelo's approach has increasingly centered on securing massive paydays rather than seeking out the toughest challenges. Benavidez wasn't surprised by the Crawford fight narrative, pointing out that this pattern isn't new and predicting that Canelo will likely continue prioritizing financially lucrative matchups going forward. Meanwhile, Oscar De La Hoya shared a different perspective in an interview with Fight Hype, suggesting that the result had more to do with stylistic factors than a decline in Canelo's abilities. He rejected the idea that Alvarez is finished, emphasizing that the future depends heavily on smart matchmaking. De La Hoya explained that when Canelo faces the right kind of opponent, someone willing to stand toe-to-toe and trade punches, he still has the power and skill to dominate and score knockouts. In his view, the key at this stage of Canelo's career is picking the right fights and maximizing the remaining opportunities for big paydays.
You see, Canelo is a strong fighter, and every punch he throws comes with power, right? That breaks down the body. Physically, his body is breaking down. Plus, he just had a kid. Canelo wants to go enjoy his life. He wants to keep his wits, keep his mind together, stay sharp, and go enjoy a little bit of that money that he just made. But he could not pass the torch to somebody that didn't respect the game. Canelo's at the top of the list. But
Oscar De La Hoya has suggested that Canelo can still compete at the highest level, but primarily against opponents whose styles play to his strengths. On the other hand, promoter Eddie Hearn offered a contrasting take during an interview with Sports Illustrated. He highlighted the huge sporting and commercial appeal of a Crawford rematch, framing it as a pivotal moment for Canelo's legacy. According to Hearn, the key storyline revolves around whether Alvarez can quiet retirement speculation by showing real tactical adjustments, or if Crawford will push him closer to the end of his career. Hearn added that Canelo has reinvented his approach before, and believes he could do it again, developing new strategies and tools that might genuinely trouble Crawford in a second meeting.
You've been training Crawford for years. Is he retired or is he going to keep fighting?
He just got to take a break.
Is Terence Crawford retired or is he going to keep fighting?
Oh, he's going to keep fighting.
He's going to keep fighting?
Yeah.
You're the man. Be man. Hey, congratulations. Enjoy the win.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In their first meeting, Canelo started strong, controlling the early rounds with sharp counterpunching that kept Crawford cautious. But as the fight wore on, the tide began to turn. From rounds 9 through 12, Crawford took over, connecting with the cleaner shots and pushing Alvarez onto the back foot. Many analysts felt that this late surge ultimately decided the outcome. Eddie Hearn believes that if Canelo can manage the championship rounds more effectively in a rematch, the result could look very different.
We already know. We knew Crawford is a great fighter, and I did what I supposed to do, right? I tried for every way, and I trained really hard, and he deserved all the credit. No, I try.
Chris Eubank Jr. echoed the growing confidence around a potential rematch, calling a second fight a massive event and expressing his belief that Canelo still has the ability to rewrite the narrative. He pointed out that Alvarez's power and experience remain elite, and if applied strategically, they could change the outcome. His remarks reflect a broader sentiment within the boxing community. Canelo still possesses dangerous tools. It's a matter of adapting and using them effectively. Trainer Robert Garcia also voiced his support for a rematch during an interview with Fight Hype. He emphasized that Canelo's mindset would be the deciding factor. Garcia believes that if Alvarez returns with genuine hunger and avoids the tactical lapses from their first meeting, particularly by maintaining pressure and leveraging his power throughout the fight, he has a real shot at defeating Crawford. His comments highlight a consistent theme among fighters and trainers alike. Canelo's abilities haven't diminished, but his willingness to fully tap into them could shape the next chapter of his career.
I would love to see the rematch. I think in the rematch, if he comes back with the hunger that he needs, he could beat Crawford. Because Crawford, is very talented, but I think Canelo could beat him. Canelo's strong, man. Canelo's strong. Canelo could take a good punch. So I think he could just go and don't respect his punch and throw punches even though you're gonna get hit, but don't.
Terence Crawford. The victory over Alvarez, whether some question its context or not, has undeniably created new opportunities. The discussion now centers on who he might face next. Some analysts argue that Crawford will likely steer clear of the most physically imposing challengers, fighters such as David Benavidez, Dmitry Bivol, Diego Pacheco, or Bektemir Melikuziev. All of them bring size and punching power that could offset Crawford's technical brilliance, making those matchups extremely risky with uncertain payoff. Instead, the expectation among many is that Crawford will pursue high-profile but more manageable opponents. Names like Jermall Charlo or Hamza Shiraz, who offer strong commercial value without the same level of danger.
Potential rematch, as a Canelo fan, I don't really want to see that. I don't think there will be much difference. I don't think Canelo can bring anything to the table that's going to surprise Crawford. He's a different fighter now. If this was 10 years ago, yes, I think the fight could have gone a different way. But there's no point in even thinking that, because Canelo's a different fighter now. They fought today. They fought when Crawford is older as well, so I can't be trying to say, well, Canelo's not.
At this stage, the business dynamics of boxing play a crucial role. Crawford's win has elevated his status, allowing him to command massive purses, but the longevity of that position will depend on how strategically he chooses his next opponents. On the other hand, Canelo's upcoming decisions will heavily influence the direction of the sport. A quick attempt at redemption through a rematch with Crawford would create a global spectacle, drawing huge attention and financial success. However, if he chooses a different path, perhaps selecting a stylistically safer matchup, it could be interpreted as a sign that he's beginning to transition into the final stretch of his career.
Between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. Personally, I do not want to see a rematch. Usually rematches are in order when it's a very close fight and you can't really tell, which fighter won. There's a lot of close rounds, swing rounds. That wasn't the case in this fight. Terence Crawford won pretty handedly. I personally scored the fight 9-3. Being generous, you can give it 8-4.
Even though Canelo is facing criticism for prioritizing financial gain, many believe that no amount of money can undo the situation he created by taking the lucrative Crawford fight. The reality is that modern boxing revolves heavily around big money matchups, often overshadowing concerns about a fighter's age or physical decline. If the numbers are strong, the fight usually happens, regardless of competitive risk. That's exactly what played out here. Canelo was already showing signs of wear, but the financial scale of the Crawford bout was simply too significant to walk away from. The issue, however, is that while the paydays keep growing, the physical toll on a fighter's body doesn't pause, and for Canelo, this may have been the one massive payday that came at too high a cost.
I put Coca-Cola, I'm buying. I risk my life in the ring, and everybody's making money too. It's not that they don't making money, they making money, but the fighter need to make more than them.
Coach Ronnie Shields didn't hold back after the fight, openly stating that he believes it's time for Canelo to consider retirement. In an interview with Fight Hub TV, Shields explained that what he witnessed in the Crawford bout made things clear for him. The energy, sharpness, and relentless pressure that once defined Canelo's style were simply no longer there. He emphasized that this isn't an issue of trainers or strategy. It's the inevitable impact of time. Shields argued that even changing coaches wouldn't make a difference, saying that once a fighter's body stops responding at the highest level, no amount of adjustments or hard work can turn back the clock.
For name to have just one name at 160, 154, I mean, it's just hard for him, ideally, to just see a fight. No names resonating at the moment. Would you be okay to see him retire?
I would. Look, he's had a great career also. Yes, he's older, but...
Oscar De La Hoya offered a contrasting perspective, suggesting that Canelo's career might still have some mileage left if he makes bold changes. From a promoter's point of view, De La Hoya argued that a new voice in the corner could inject fresh energy, even hinting that someone like Ronnie Shields could bring the right spark. Shields, however, shut that idea down quickly. He explained that the problem isn't about trainers or tactics, it's the years of mileage on Canelo's body. Having competed at the elite level since his teenage years, Canelo has absorbed countless rounds of punishment through grueling camps and tough fights. By comparison, Crawford has endured fewer wars and carries less wear and tear, giving him a physical edge. Shields bluntly stated that Canelo's body is sending him clear warning signs, and the longer he chooses to push through them, the more damage he risks.
Look, I mean, the only thing I can tell him or give him advice in is get a new trainer. I can't advise him on retiring or staying in box. That's a very personal decision. But I can say, hey, get a new trainer. You'll do.
And honestly, the warning signs have been there for a while. Ever since his bout with Dimitri Bivol in May 2022, Canelo has looked like a different fighter. Yes, he's managed to keep winning, but the spark of dominance that once defined him has been fading. He hasn't produced a knockout since, often fading in the later rounds and facing opponents that didn't truly expose his decline. Crawford, however, wasn't one of those opponents. Canelo couldn't rely on sheer size and strength to control the fight, and when it went into the championship rounds, his stamina simply didn't hold up. Shields' assessment rings true. Eventually, the body stops lying no matter how great the fighter is.
Now, if we see a fight where Canelo Alvarez looks old, and guess what? He's old. Right? And it might be a case of him being less than he was.
Interestingly, Shields didn't just speak about Canelo. He also offered some unexpected advice for Crawford. He suggested that even Bud should consider wrapping up his career in the near future, perhaps after one more big fight. At 38, Crawford is still performing at an elite level, but Shields believes it's smarter to leave before age starts to catch up. He floated the idea of Crawford moving down to 160 pounds, winning a title there, and then walking away on top. In his view, staying at 168 would be risky because the division is full of younger, stronger, and more aggressive challengers. Shields even mentioned Christian Mbili as an example, a relentless pressure fighter who doesn't allow opponents to breathe. Crawford was able to outmaneuver Canelo because Alvarez has slowed down and gave him space. Against a relentless, high-volume fighter in his physical prime, that kind of control would be much harder to maintain.
Floating around as a potential opponent for Canelo, but the big question has been, is Christian ready for that opportunity? Is he ready for the moment? Do you feel after this Saturday that you are ready for a fight with whoever wins the fight against Crawford and Canelo?
I'm born ready. Yeah, I'm born ready. Yeah. I'm born ready for this fight.
Of course, talk of retirement doesn't always match reality, especially when huge paydays are on the line. Crawford now holds all the belts at 168 and has become one of boxing's biggest attractions. That's exactly why Turki Alalshik quickly stirred the pot by mentioning David Benavidez, questioning whether he could still make the super middleweight limit. It was a not-so-subtle signal of the kind of blockbuster matchup he wants to create. Crawford versus Benavidez. A fight like that would grab global attention and, more importantly, bring in tens of millions in revenue.